The rain had barely dried on the cracked highway when Daniel felt his hands trembling on the steering wheel, not from the cold November night but from the impossible choice he knew awaited him by morning. Behind him, the city lights blurred into streaks, echoes of a party he never wanted to attend, while beside him, in the passenger seat, his boss lay slumped against the window, her breath heavy with the smell of liquor and exhaustion. He told himself he didn't belong here, that a single father with troubles of his own shouldn't be driving a woman who could fire him with a single sentence. But fate had a strange way of putting people together at their weakest moments, and tonight was one of those nights where everything in his life seemed one wrong turn away from shattering again. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the goodness that still exists in people, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Grandma Dearie. Your support truly keeps these stories alive. Daniel kept his eyes fixed ahead, his mind replaying the moment at the office party when he saw her stumbling near the exit. Everyone else had been too caught up in their laughter and pride, too eager to impress higher-ups or drown their failures in champagne. But Daniel wasn't wired that way. He noticed things, like the fact that she had arrived alone, left her phone on the table, and looked strangely fragile beneath the expensive dress and the powerful image she carried every day. He also noticed, painfully, the way people whispered that she was too cold, too strict, too unapproachable. Daniel never joined those whispers. He knew better than anyone how easy it was to misjudge a person who simply carried too much on their shoulders. As he drove, his thoughts drifted to his daughter, Emily, asleep at home with a neighbor because he couldn't afford a babysitter. Just 7 years old and already learning how to pack her own lunch whenever her father worked late. She would ask him in the morning why he wasn't there to tuck her in, and he would come up with another gentle lie, because the truth was too heavy for a child. Bills piling up. Hours being cut. Life slipping from his grip no matter how tightly he held on. He couldn't afford to lose this job. He couldn't afford to disappoint anyone, not even a drunk boss he barely knew. The night grew heavier as he reached her apartment building, a towering structure of glass that looked nothing like the small worn-out flat he and Emily shared. He carried her up to her floor. She was lighter than she looked, trembling faintly, mumbling something he couldn't understand. He laid her gently on the couch, placed a blanket over her, made sure a glass of water stood within reach, then left quietly, praying she would remember none of this. He didn't want complications. He didn't want trouble. He only wanted to keep going. The next morning, Daniel arrived at work with the weight of dread pressing on his chest. His boss was already in her office, her door half open, sunlight pouring across her desk. She didn't look angry. She didn't look embarrassed. She looked different. Her eyes, usually sharp and unreadable, were softer, almost unsure. Daniel felt frozen when she motioned for him to come inside. For a moment, neither spoke. She simply looked at him, and he braced himself for the worst, accusations, suspicions, anything that might corner him into losing the only stability he had left. But then she did something unexpected. She lowered her head, breathed deeply, and told him that she remembered everything. She told him she remembered how gently he had spoken, how carefully he had lifted her out of the car, how he had made sure her apartment was locked before leaving. She said she remembered something else too, something that made her voice tremble ever so slightly, that it had been years since someone treated her like she mattered beyond her job title. She admitted she had been drowning in her own loneliness, hiding behind rules, sternness, and work because she didn't know how to be vulnerable without feeling weak. Daniel felt something in him shift as she continued, saying she hadn't realized how many late nights and extra burdens she had unknowingly handed him, thinking he could manage because he never complained. She apologized, a word that felt surreal coming from a woman who held so much power. But she wasn't speaking as a boss now, she was speaking as a person who finally saw him. Then she said the words that stunned him completely, that someone who showed such compassion, even when no one was watching, deserved better than silent suffering. She offered him a raise, a stable schedule, and the guarantee that he would never again have to choose between work and being a father. She said she couldn't change his past, but she wanted to help shape his future, because sometimes the strongest people were the ones who never asked for anything. Daniel left her office with tears stinging his eyes. For the first time in months, the world felt slightly less heavy. That evening, he picked up Emily early from school and took her for ice cream, something he hadn't been able to do in ages. As she laughed, her face smeared with chocolate, he realized how close he had been to giving up hope without noticing. Sometimes, he thought, life doesn't give you miracles wrapped in perfection. Sometimes it gives you people, flawed, hurting, lost, who cross your path at the exact moment both of you need saving. And in that quiet understanding, something healing began. If this story touched your heart even a little, please like, share, and subscribe to Grandma Dearie. Your support helps bring more heartfelt stories to life.